Part 5. The Way He Listened. Elizabeth stood in the doorway of her living room, the glow from a single lamp casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. The house felt quieter than usual, as if even the walls had agreed to hold their breath. She'd been home for nearly an hour, but something about the evening still clung to her, like the scent of Bradley's cologne. Faint, woodsy, warm. Her phone sat on the kitchen counter, dark screen facing up. No new messages, just the echo of the one she deleted. She hadn't told Bradley what Marcus had written. She wasn't sure why. Maybe because it didn't matter, or maybe because she needed it not to. She crossed the room slowly, bare feet soft against the floor. She reached for the small chilled bottle she'd placed in the fridge earlier, uncorked it without a sound, and poured herself a single glass of champagne. The bubbles rose lazily to the surface. She carried it to the window. She stood there for a moment, still and unhurried, her bare skin kissed by the city's evening light. Just her thong and a soft lace bra. Nothing hurried. Just her, in her own quiet elegance. One hand resting on the window pane, the other cradling the glass. Outside, the skyline shimmered. The moon hung low over the river. The night had thinned out, traffic distant, the air softened by heat and time. She raised the glass to her lips, not to toast, just to taste. The champagne was cool, dry and delicate on her tongue. There was no music, no news, just her breath and the city beyond the glass. She let herself exist there for a while, not as someone preparing for sleep, but as someone who had finally found stillness. Eventually, she turned from the window and made her way back toward the bedroom. She set the empty glass on the nightstand and reached for the sleepwear folded neatly at the foot of her bed, a light gold satin set that caught the lamplight like candle flame. The fabric was soft against her skin, almost weightless. She slipped it on, smoothed the straps, and clipped in her small diamond earrings. Simple, radiant, hers. She liked herself like this. Lightly unadorned, yes, but intentional. Elegant even in solitude. She passed by the mirror on the way to the living room and caught a glimpse of herself. Not critically, but with quiet affirmation. Just Elizabeth. A part of her wondered what Bradley would think if he saw her like this. No wine red lipstick. No curated ensemble. Just skin, satin, and silence. She padded softly back to the living room and curled into the corner of the couch, her journal resting where she left it earlier on the side table. She picked it up, pen already tucked in the spine, and for a long moment, she just held it. Then slowly, she began to write. Not about Marcus, not even about Bradley. She wrote about the feeling, the stillness, the way her laugh had felt like her own again, the way Bradley had looked at her when she spoke. Not just hearing her, but listening, really listening. She remembered how his brow would furrow just slightly when she mentioned something that mattered to her. How he remembered the names she mentioned. How he never interrupted, never offered a solution unless she asked. It was startling how rare that was. She'd been so used to being background noise in her own life. With Marcus, everything had always been about timing. His work, his needs, his rhythms. Even when he was home, he wasn't really present. And over time, she'd stopped offering pieces of herself he never noticed were missing. But Bradley had asked her which season she loved most, and waited, actually waited for her answer. Not because it was important in the grand scheme of things, but because it was important to her. And when she said autumn, he smiled and said,
I would have guessed that.
Why?
Because you look like you belong in candlelight and wind.
No one had ever said that to her before. And somehow, she'd believed him. She set the journal aside, pressing the pen gently into the spine. The room was dim now, lit only by the lamp and the soft reflection of moonlight against the windows. Outside, the trees swayed gently. Their shadows danced across the walls. The hum of the refrigerator offered a quiet kind of company. She let her head fall back against the cushions and closed her eyes for a moment. She wondered if he was thinking of her. Somewhere across town, maybe just now, unbuttoning his cuffs, setting his glasses on the nightstand, letting his thoughts drift back to their walk. Her smile, the way she'd said
Yes.
without hesitation when he asked to see her again. It hadn't felt reckless. It had felt kind. The next morning arrived gently. The sun rose behind a sheet of pale gray clouds, turning everything silver. Elizabeth moved slowly through her routine. Tea instead of coffee, classical instead of news. She watered her plants, each one lovingly named, and folded a small basket of linen and lace, her mind half on the task and half still tangled in candlelight and whispered laughter. Around 9:30, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Bradley.
Morning. Would love to see you again soon. No rush. Just when you're ready.
Elizabeth smiled. No pressure, no games, just warmth. She tapped out a reply.
That sounds lovely. Let's plan something for the weekend.
Elizabeth wore soft jeans and a linen blouse, her curls pinned loosely at the back of her head. Bradley met her at the entrance, coffee in hand for both of them, and a shy smile tucked beneath his quiet confidence.
You remembered my order?
She said, touched.
Of course.
He replied.
And that's the easy part.
The morning unfurled like a slow dance. They moved through shaded paths, paused at benches, lingered near fountains. Every few minutes, their arms brushed. Their hands flirted with closeness. At one point, as they stood beneath a weeping willow, he reached for her hand, not suddenly, not forcefully, just naturally. As if it was the most obvious thing in the world, she let him, their fingers laced without awkwardness, and she felt the quiet thrum of comfort move through her. It was steady. Later, as they sat by the koi pond, Elizabeth turned toward him.
Do you believe in timing?
She asked. Bradley considered the question for a moment, eyes on the slow ripples in the water.
I think I used to believe in the perfect time.
He said.
But now, I believe in the right time, even if it's inconvenient, even if it doesn't make sense on paper.
She nodded slowly.
I think I'm starting to believe that too.
A pause. Then she added softly.
I deleted his message.
He looked at her. No shock. No questions. Just a slight squeeze of her hand.
Thank you for telling me.
He said. That was it. No expectation. No need for details. Just space. Just presence. As the sun began its descent, casting amber across the garden paths, they walked once more in silence, the kind of silence that speaks louder than conversation. When they reached her car, Bradley opened the door for her. Before she stepped inside, she turned to him.
This was nice,
she said. He smiled.
It really was.
She hesitated, then leaned in. Not for a kiss, not yet, but for a hug, a long one, the kind that said more than goodbye, the kind that said, "I feel safe here." When they finally pulled apart, he looked at her with that same quiet stillness.
Call me when you get home.
I will.
And she meant it.
Bradley hadn't expected the quiet to follow him home, but it did. Not the kind that lingers after a date ends, the kind that stays because something real just began. Elizabeth was different, not trying, just present. The way she moved through the garden, the ease in her voice, the weight of her silence, it all felt intentional, honest. And when she said she deleted the message, he didn't need to ask why. He just listened, because he was starting to care, and he knew it. Part 6 picks up where stillness becomes something you choose.